So at this point, I'm pretty sure everybody has heard the news. No Jumper, or at least Adam22, had addressed that No Jumper is going broke. It looks like he admitted that No Jumper is facing some financial losses, going through some financial struggles, and had did a video recently explaining that he's broke. Now, I find it funny that he's admitting this at a time like this, considering that they had arrested a majority of the people that perform on his platform, create content on his platform, talking about Brick Baby, talking about Loose Cannon and other people like that. After they get arrested, he comes out and says that he's broke. Immediately, I thought, is this something that is related to this? Is this all in relation to what happened over there with Brick Baby and Loose Cannon and the Rico that they got Big U under? He kind of explains his situation in a new video. I'm gonna play the clip right now and see what exactly it is that he says. Very interesting turn, though, considering how long No Jumper has been pushing content and how many people they've employed over the years. To think that they're actually going broke at a time like this, we'll see what exactly Adam22 has to say.
There's something that I've been hiding from you guys. No Jumper is going broke. I know that might sound crazy. Between both of our YouTube channels last month, we got over 25 million views. We're doing well on Facebook and Snapchat. We employ quite a few of the hottest content creators on the West Coast, and we pump out an insane amount of content on a weekly basis. How could we be going broke? Well, let's start here. We expanded too much during COVID at just about the exact moment that our revenue streams all took a hit. We hired a whole bunch of editors and other employees, and we bought a huge office building that cost us almost $4 million, thinking that the growth that we were experiencing during the pandemic was going to continue. And
from my understanding, from what I hear about a lot of content creators, during the pandemic, they saw a big increase because everybody had to stay inside and people started streaming a lot more. A lot of people say that that's the reason why they got a big increase during the pandemic anyways. But there was a lot of things that happened at No Jumper during this time as well. See if he says anything.
And unfortunately, that did not happen. Our YouTube numbers, which had doubled or even tripled, gradually returned to normal. Our Snapchat and Facebook numbers, which had exploded during COVID, sometimes even hitting 6 figures a month, shrank by about 80% or more. Our Patreon, which was absolutely killing it for a year or two when we were doing uncensored, aka nude interviews with up-and-coming superstars like Kazumi and Sky Bree, fell off quite a bit with the launch of Plug Talk and a decreased interest in seeing us interview stars. In addition to that,
I don't know why. I have no idea why Adam22 thought it would be a good idea to interview people like that, people in that industry, when that wasn't even what you were known for. That wasn't even what people watched you in the first place for. No Jumper, I mean, if obviously people who know of No Jumper, but the real big thing about No Jumper that made them famous was the interviews that Adam22 would eventually do. You talk about the interview with X, you talk about all these interviews with underground artists, Ski Mask, everybody, bro. At this point, Juice World, it kept gradually keep going as the years went on. Eventually, he just strayed away from all of that. I know he tried to do the podcast with AD. He tried to do different segments and all of that. But eventually, it just kept getting worse because the content just kept changing. Even the people like AD, like I had just mentioned, would question the things that he was doing. Why are you interviewing people in that industry? Why are you interviewing and why are you doing this when this isn't really the content that you're known for or people watch you for? It was almost like if he was trying to disconnect from his original audience.
You might recall that the channel took quite a hit when approximately 8 of our hosts left the platform in March of 2023. Although we've definitely largely recovered and managed to build up a very healthy roster of talent since then.
We're talking about AD, Terrell, we're talking about House Phone, Blasey. Like, these are all people that had worked at No Jumper and eventually quit or got fired because of the scenarios and situations that they were put in at the environment of No Jumper. These are all things that had occurred over there. Adam had really dug himself a hole with this one, bro. It's not a coincidence that he's making this video about going broke. There's a lot of things that could have led up to this point, realistically.
That certainly took a toll on our business for a while as well. All that stuff hurt the business, but we were still solidly profitable. That is, until the last few months where we experienced 2 major L's that we never could have seen coming. First, we lost the No Jumper Instagram. After almost 10 years of building it up and essentially no strikes on our account, we got taken down one day and we still have absolutely no idea why. We've had no luck getting it back despite being in contact with what seems like every Instagram recovery guy on the face of the planet. We were bringing in a very solid amount of cash monthly that was keeping us afloat via selling sponsored posts on the account, and that mostly vanished overnight. And while we've been growing the new No Jumper LA account up ever since and managing to sell sponsored collab posts using my Instagram and the No Jumper LA account, DM or email if interested, we aren't making anywhere near as much from Instagram now. Side note, if you're a meta rep, please DM me. I would love to speak to anyone who could help with this. And second, in addition to that, we have been hit with a bullshit lawsuit from a former employee. Now
that's Yuri. Yuri is somebody else who had quit or left No Jumper, got fired, whatever. He had left No Jumper. He had went to do something with House Phone and Blasey. Yuri decided to sue No Jumper because of grievances, whatever situation that happened between him, Yuri, and his girlfriend. It looks like the grievances that he had submitted is taking a toll on Adam22 up until this point, and he's finally admitting it on camera.
Essentially everything in this lawsuit is completely fictional, and every lawyer that I've spoken to about it has described this as basically an extortion attempt, but it still cost us a ton of money already, and it's expected to cost us many hundreds of thousands of dollars to see this through to completion. It's insane to me that a person that we did so much for can just invent some grievances out of thin air and cost us this much money as a result. This person has literally lost every single friend that he used to have when he...
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, bro. Yuri did actually have a disconnect with the Disconnect podcast. Reconnected, disconnected. That was the name of their podcast. He ended up disconnecting himself from all of that. He started beefing with Blasey, started beefing with House Phone, started feeling some type of way, and ended up just beefing with everybody there. It was just a really strange event. I can't remember all of the details. I saw a video about it. But basically, he left No Jumper, started a podcast with his friends, and then started fighting with his friends. And now he's not part of that podcast anymore. He had sued No Jumper and Adam before that, but he was already having his own situations with them. So realistically, it's starting to look like who's the problem.
Streaming career has completely tanked, and he even got kicked off the podcast that he left No Jumper to start, but somehow that's our reality, and we have to fight this rather than just give in to this piece of shit. So as a result of all these circumstances, we are making some changes. Over the last few months, we laid off multiple employees in an attempt to reduce our expenses as much as possible. We closed down our store on Melrose, and we're in the early stages of selling our current warehouse and moving into a smaller space. To be honest, aside from the layoffs, which sucked, I'm pretty happy about a lot of these changes. I've realized that I should have paid more attention to DJ Vlad and kept my overhead as low as possible, particularly in terms of staff and location. I'm confident that once we get the building sold, we'll be in a pretty solid financial position again as a business. Oh, and I also just want to note that I am talking about No Jumper as a business. I've got another business in the form of and I've got a pretty decent investment portfolio on a personal level.
So essentially what he's saying is that No Jumper is going broke. It's not the other ventures that Adam22 partakes in, you know, whether he has his content with his wife or whether he has the other situations going on that he makes money from. It's strictly No Jumper that he's talking about. But I feel like realistically, Adam22 is bringing up all of this so that way he could clean house. Look, you have all these people going out the door, people getting fired, people quitting, Terrell, AD starting their own thing because they realize that there's no money here, there's no potential to grow here. There's a lot of conflict going on between you and everybody else. You bring in Brick Baby and Loose Cannon and all these other random people before them that didn't make the cut, and then they get cut out because they get arrested over a RICO charge. Starting to think that what if Adam is just realizing that he's biting off more than he could chew. When you hire these creators, when you hire these entertainers, when you hire all of these individuals, what are the chances that Adam22 is doing all of this so that way he could just properly cut off people the professional way? What more professional can it be than to just tell people, hey, I'm going broke. There's really no point of you being on the podcast. I don't think that it's a good idea. I can't pay you. I have to make all of these cuts. I have to sell my warehouse. And the thing is that I don't think that that's a lie. I think he really is going broke with No Jumper. But I feel like he's using that as the scapegoat. I feel like he's using this as a way to tell people that work for him currently, hey, man, I don't think that I could pay you. I could barely afford to keep the lights on. I don't think that we could do this anymore. Maybe they'll stay there for free if he offers them to stay there for free. But I think he wants nothing to do with anybody there. The only people we will see there in No Jumper are the people that he decides to keep. It just feels like he's using this as an excuse so that way he doesn't have to employ anybody anymore. At the same time, because realistically, why would you want to work at No Jumper? Why would you want to work with Adam22? It seems like anybody who goes to No Jumper ends up getting arrested or unalived. So I don't see what's the point of being over there, or why would you want to be there in the first place?
And I can't really justify doing so unless the fundamentals of the business make sense. It was a big decision to share this stuff with you guys, but at a certain point, I realized that I've been honest with the world about just about everything in my life over the years, and it felt wrong to keep all this stuff that we've been dealing with in secret.
Realistically, bro, it's because No Jumper was definitely a platform that isn't what it is today. No Jumper used to be a platform that did interviews, but interviews that related to the underground. Like I said, he was the first person to interview X when he got out of jail. He has many vlogs and interviews with Juice WRLD, Trippie Redd on their way to success, Lil Pump on the way to his success. All these early clips of these underground artists. That's really what No Jumper was known for, you know. And then also when people would come into the store, like famous people like J. Cole pulling up to No Jumper. I remember when J. Cole had did that. Then you hear about the stories of Adam, bro, and then you hear about Adam and then his history, knowing about who he is and who he was. I think really the problem is the content that Adam22 was putting out on No Jumper. I think the content was something that people weren't really rocking with. But yeah, realistically, I think the content, I think Adam just lost the plot. I really do think that he lost the plot. I think everything else that's going on as well, whether it's federal agents going at his door asking about Nipsey Hussle and Big U and Loose Cannon, and then Loose Cannon, which is somebody that works for you or has been on your show, gets arrested. Brick Baby, that definitely worked for you, gets arrested. And Whack 100 is still on your show. You have a podcast with Whack 100, who's named in the indictment as well. I feel like even though we could say this, what had happened that led up to this, we could also say that he possibly, potentially, allegedly could have just used this broke situation as a scapegoat to stop messing with all of these LA dudes, stop messing with all these street dudes, stop messing with all these guys that are causing a lot more conflict with him personally than he would have imagined. Because if you talk to these guys on the platform, you're not expecting to go home and then people bang on your door and they're federal agents asking what's going on, FBI agents saying, yo, we need that videotape of them asking this, and that. Realistically, they could just get that on a screen record on a computer, but they want to confirm it from you. It seems kind of strange. It just seems like, I don't know. It feels like if that happened, Adam22 is probably just using this as an excuse to get out of that. But I think No Jumper went broke because he lost the plot, man. I think he lost the plot. There's a slight chance that all of this is just some elaborate scheme for Adam to take this loss, but try to turn it into some type of win. Let me use this as a scapegoat so I could get away from everybody that I've hired, that I've employed. If not, this broke situation ended up becoming real convenient for him. People that work for you are getting arrested. FBI is going to your house. Let me just say I'm broke so that way I could get rid of everyone. I don't have to deal with this anymore. I could just focus on the other ventures that I got going on while I try to rebuild whatever I have left. I think that's what it could be. No Jumper is not what it used to be. It seems like all the other artists that Adam22 had interviewed, all of them that passed away, is kind of like No Jumper. The original No Jumper had passed away with them, you know? So what No Jumper is kind of like a shell of a platform. But y'all tell me how you feel about this, man. I think this is real strange that this has happened, but y'all get back to me and let me know how you feel about this. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video, man. Peace. Keep it legend.